Good day. My name is Dr. Roland Maccraty, and I am Director of Research at the HeartMath Institute. And today I'm going to talk about how the heart and brain communicate. And the heart and brain communicate in four primary ways. So today I'm going to focus mostly on the nervous system and how the neural signals of the heart and brain communicate. And that is that the heart literally sends more neural traffic, quite a bit more in fact, to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. There's a long history, actually hundreds of publications and studies showing that the signals from the heart, the neural signals, the rhythm, the rate, the quality, the structure of these signals have profound effects on the brain and almost all brain centers, in fact, but especially the ones involved in the frontal cortex, our ability to self-regulate, be self-aware, but also in the motor strips or reaction times, and also there are direct neural inputs from the heart into the centers of the brain involved in emotional experience. So for a large degree, we're starting to understand why terms and phrases in our language are so common. I mean, most people don't say to their wife or husband, "I love you with all my brain," right? It's usually they put their hand on their heart, and it's something to do with the heart. So there's been a long historical relationship with people intuitively understanding that there's more to the heart than just an organ that has to do with regulating blood flow and pumping blood. The heart actually has an intrinsic nervous system that's nicknamed the heart-brain. So this is a complex neural system within the heart itself. And so the afferents or ascending pathways from the heart are more numerous than the ones coming down by a ratio of about 9-to-1, in fact. The top graph here, this is what the heart rhythm of this person looks like when they're feeling frustrated. And we call this an incoherent rhythm. Now, this is the same person on the bottom we're looking at, and this is what we call a coherent heart rhythm. Now, just one of those little sine wave type patterns you see there is about 20 heartbeats. So this is showing the accelerations and deaccelerations, but in a coherent or ordered and harmonious pattern. And this is associated with optimal cognitive function, but it's also the natural state our heart rhythm goes into, or beats out, if you will, when we're feeling good. However, the part of the brain that's most profoundly affected in these incoherent states is our frontal cortex. Now, the frontal cortex gives us the ability to have foresight. So foresight is a big umbrella term. It covers things like discrimination of appropriate behavior, abstract thinking, appreciation of achieving a goal, in fact, even being able to set a goal, are all frontal cortex things. So when when we're in this incoherent state, those are the processes that are taken offline first. So this can be why when we're angry, which creates incoherence, or upset emotionally, and when we have these coherent rhythms now impinging on the thalamus, people can tend to say or do something they regret later. So it's really kind of inhibiting our ability to self-regulate, if you will. Now, on the other hand, if we're in a coherent state, we have a coherent rhythm, like you see on the right side of the figure here, impinging on the thalamus, it facilitates and enhances global cortical synchronization. So this results in improved reaction times, better coordination, it especially enhances and optimizes cognitive function and our capacity and ability to self-regulate. So what this means in day-to-day life is before making an important decision or going into a stressful situation that you know tends to be stressful for you or emotionally upsetting, is take a couple of minutes. Just get your physiology settled down. Get coherent. Heart actually radiates a more coherent magnetic signal, electromagnetic signal into the environment. And this magnetic signal can be detected by the nervous systems of other people and even animals. So the figure you see here on the right side of this graph is actually the real shape of the magnetic field produced by the heart. When the heart beats, the current flows in the heart produce magnetic fields, and magnetic fields penetrate things. They go through things. In fact, that's why our cell phones work inside of buildings, is the magnetic component was able to penetrate through the walls and go through the windows and doors, and or go right through a wall, actually, and communicate with the cell tower. You're on your cell phone, having the call or sending your text or photo, it's being carried by the magnetic field, electromagnetic field. So what I'm suggesting here is we work the same way. So we know that when the heart beats, it creates a magnetic field that radiates external to the body. Now, how do I know this? Well, we can measure it. So I'm not talking about an aura or something here that I can't measure yet in the lab anyway, but we can measure magnetic fields. And with today's equipment, called magnetometers. You can measure the cardiac field or the magnetic field of the heart about 3 feet away from the body. The picture you see here is Josh, who's my son in this case, and Mabel, his dog at the time. And what you see on top of this figure is Mabel and her HRV, her heart rhythms. And Josh's HRV, heart rhythms, is on the bottom. And he was asked to go into the same room, same lab where Mabel was, but not to interact, not to pet her, to touch her, talk to her, anything like that. Just quietly go in, have a seat, and do one of the heart math techniques called the heart lock-in, which is where you get into a coherent state, focus on the heart, but actually send out love and appreciation or care to somebody. In this case, he did this with Mabel. And you can see on the bottom that his heart rhythm shifted while he did that into a very coherent rhythm. But look what happened on top to Mabel. There's no physical contact here. They're quite a ways apart, in fact. So we see that Mabel, the dog's heart rhythm, shifted into a coherent state as well. So this is showing an energetic communication equation here. This is an experiment that was done as a PhD dissertation study, a very well done study. And what this researcher did is he took 40 people, and 4 at a time, had them sit around a table, and 3 of the people had been trained 2 weeks prior how to shift in and sustain a coherent state. And the 4th person, who was part of the study of each of the groups of 4, was naive. They did not had no training and didn't know what the study was about. They were all wired up to devices to simultaneously measure their electrocardiograms, and so that their HRV could be sorted out and measured for coherence. And it was a long, complex protocol. It doesn't really matter. But the main question was when the 3 people who had been trained were randomly signaled to shift into a coherent state, the 4th person not knowing when or what was going on, did it have a measurable impact on that 4th person? And the answer is yes, it did. Overall, a highly significant effect. So what this proved was that when we're in a coherent state, that energetic field environment that I'm talking about, this magnetic field environment, is detected by the nervous systems of other people, and it can actually have a lifting effect on them. They become more coherent. And that's a guy named Alexander Chesovsky, who was a Russian astrophysicist who got drafted into World War I. And being an astrophysicist, he was keeping one eye on what the sun was doing and the activity of the sun. But meanwhile, he was down here on Earth in the middle of a war. And it occurred to him, or he observed, that during high solar activity and solar disturbances and magnetic field disturbances and so on, that people down here on Earth just kind of got crazy, did more stupid things, basically. This figure you're seeing here is from his original data. Here on the top in blue, if we start on the top graph on the far left, we're in 1749. And then we go across through the 1930s, and then it wraps around on the bottom blue graph up to 1929. So what the blue line is showing is there's basically a dot each year for the number of major human events that occurred that year. Major human events are things like start of a war, revolutions, major discoveries, things that had global implication. The red line on the bottom of the 2 graphs is the solar cycle for the same time period. So the correlation between the solar cycle and the human activity levels and major human events is pretty obvious when you look at this figure.